the best intel operations chief in the battalion. Like, in the sense that, like, and again, I know I haven't seen the S2 yet, but I'm telling you, like, somebody showed me how you can pass around information like we did. Nobody could do it. Nobody could do it. And to the extent of where when I had people who joined the company later on, they were like, I know about the AO in 2 weeks of being with Lima Company that I have for the last 6 months.
And then did the fact that this was Belmont's 4th tour with Lima Company help him in that dissemination?
You know, yes, it did. And here's why. Like, here's where one thing led to another. Like, Belmont issued me the morning paper for the first time, and I was like, what the hell is this? It was like, oh, something we did, you know, in Lima a while back. It was a morning paper just to the commanders showing them what was going on. I was like, this thing's awesome. Like, okay, I want it to look like this. And like, so Belmont's past experience, you know, knowing the way things worked and having a savviness to kind of make things happen. You know, the other thing he could do is he could grab any squad leader by the scruff of the neck and say, get me this report or I'll break your neck type thing. So he had seen some things that had worked in the past and knew what he liked, and was able to go, you know, make that even better every time. And this leads to the morning paper. Like, I really wanted this thing read, and it had some good information, and eventually it had information from higher, information from every single station would come in with an assessment of what happened that day, and every single role would go into this one document, and it was disseminated around. Well, I was trying to turn Belmont, like one day, I was like, I want people to read this thing. Like, make it so people will read it. So it came back one day with a picture of a chick in a bikini on it. And like, you could see they were like this, like handing it to me like, and I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's awesome. I want that done from now on. I want some sexy picture of some woman at the top of every document whenever it goes out. And so that continued. Then the next step was, but I mean, so everybody was looking at it for the picture, you know what I mean? Like, now the next step was I had to get content right. Well, I had these commanders, 7 different commanders all around the AO, and they used to come together once a week and they would jab at each other, you know what I'm saying, poke fun at one another. And so the idea was then, as I told them, start poking fun of each other in your daily assessments. Make things up, don't care, say crazy shit about one another in the daily assessment. So people would read this thing and they'd be like laughing, like, oh, he just called, you know, like Falk could be called the hippie, you know, and like, so like you would get this, you know, like Thala, you know, which Mahika would report that there was a VW bug spray painted with a rainbow on it, you know, moving through his area. He's pretty sure it came from Azazia, which is where Sace was. Do you know what I mean? And like, and so then it would come back like rainbow stickers for gay pride were found all over Thala today. You know what I mean? And so like that type of stuff. So everybody was like everybody wanted to pick up the morning paper, you know, to see what kind of mud was being slung between them. And like I remember my gunny was like, quit this shit, sir.
As
well
as the pictures.
Oh yeah, like, and so like people, there were people who really hated it. Like, hated it. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care. My job is to disseminate information.
And
like,
so this ties into a theme of Luscious Lima. That Major Quinn and then even 2 years ago, Gunny Bay had talked about.
I never banned any terms. I would just beat somebody who said Luscious Lima. I'm the exact opposite in the sense of I'm a very highly tense individual. But like you can't. It's not like you can't have fun. Like, we're at war, but we had fun. Like, if that's considered luscious, then okay, call us luscious and I'll cringe. You know what I mean? Like, we used to call ourselves the Lima Legion because we acted like battalion. I could get engineer assets quicker than the battalion. I could do anything. So we were the Legion of Lima, you know? So, yeah, I mean, my deal was just have fun. Like, whatever. And like, that became a mantra after a while because like I told you that I broke some people. I pushed people so hard at one point to where I looked around my company and they were broken. I mean, they were literally broken. And so I used to do the analogy, like, I'm going to force things to go, you know, fast and hard, and we're just going to ramrod this thing straight through as much willpower as I can push behind it. And then I told the guys at one point, I was like, okay, I'm done willing this thing to happen. Like, the bullet's at max ord. It's going. Like, the only way we're going to make it reach center mass is to lube up the bullet. You know what I mean? I've pushed as hard as I can push. Like, you guys can't take anymore. We're going to have fun. Like, from now on, we're going to have fun. And I lightened up the meetings and started joking around more, and you know, like, I mean, it's still hard on people, you know what I mean? Like, there many a time you would get the call from the 6, you know, on the radio, did you do X, Y, and Z? Yes. You were fucked up. Don't let it happen again. I'll see you in a day. Out. You know, like that type of stuff.
Oh, I want to back up too. You were saying that, you know, a lot of the officers, I guess, they were fairly new to the Marine Corps, so they adapted very quickly to these changes. But you were saying something about the gunny. It was something like the staff NCOs or senior staff NCOs just couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, everybody had their, you know, if there was a failure of Captain Mainz's, a failure of mine as a leader was the staff NCOs. I broke my gunny because I gave him too much, too hard, too fast, and he got broken. I had to like send him back to the rear for a while.
So let's talk about. I mean, you say you broke some people. Can you give some examples?
Yeah. Okay. My gunnery sergeant was responsible for 7 firm bases. The logistics coming in, and then made himself responsible for several other things that I don't think he was really responsible for.
So that was like the unit PX too.
Right, like the PX, all kinds of other things that like he took on that overloaded him to a point to where, like, you know, I had a philosophy very early on. Like, everybody was always telling me to slow down in the beginning. All the lieutenants were begging me, slow down, we're going too fast. Like, stop, we're dropping balls. And my theory was I would rather juggle 10 balls, drop 3, than only juggle 3 perfectly. And I was more than willing to just shotgun stuff out to people. And if like a guy would grab 2 or 3 and make them really good, and the other 4 didn't get through to him, like, I don't care. I just get, you know, maybe you grab the other 3 or 4, or you grab this. So it was all about shotgunning ideas and thought processes and seeing what people could grab. But Gunny had just grabbed too much at one point, so to where the system broke. One
of the criticisms of distributed operations in the articles, criminal adoption and whatnot, is the difficulty of doing logistics. For having, you know, your company broken up that much. Was this kind of a function of that? Or was it
was a function of that for my gunny, but here's the thing. Like, at all my other bases, I had PFCs running logistics.
Okay.
You know, if you break out that, you know, where's my corporal, where's this? Like, I had PFCs who did some of the most amazing things out there, you know?
And we talked about, you know, that with Lieutenant Mahika, who was one of the 18 commanders, and he went through his kind of S functions in the middle of his team. Okay, and then some of the human qualities of Mejia.
All right. This guy is a force of will type dude. Like, Mejia's gonna force things through, no matter what happens. He's another one that I did kind of break at one point too. But we put him back together again pretty good. What happened with Mejia is he was a guide at the time, because I was full up around on staff NCOs and officers.
And what was the date on this?
This was early Feb. When I just got to the unit. Mid-Feb when I got to the unit. And so what I was watching is when we were doing those ranges late Feb, early March, you know, like whenever something would be truly jacked up, Luke Larson would turn to Sergeant Mejia, who was a guide. And like Sergeant Mejia, like when given a mission, like it didn't matter if you were a staff NCO or officer, like Sergeant Mejia was making shit go. Like he was running through people. And so I remember telling Luke, like, why don't we make Sergeant Mejia our police sergeant? And, you know, like knowing, like, again, I'm the guy who reads the book. Like, you know, police sergeant is senior guy, senior sergeant in the freaking company. His responsibilities to the logistics of the company, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, it sounds like Sergeant Mejia can do that. But I was like, I want him there because he's a company asset. But I want him, since he can force things to happen, since he just makes things go, I want him to be my fixed site security officer. He's responsible for the defense of, you know, this place.
Right.
And he was a perfect fit. Like, that was what he was born to do. He became the mini gunner, like my company gunner, is what he was. He was my weapons expert. He forced things to happen. And because he's such a force of personality type guy, and because he only had that sole focus on looking at things from the enemy point of view, we outcycled things to a phenomenal point. Like, I had a sergeant who could lock on by himself, could lock on a brigade level asset, have it show up, set up a defense perfectly, and then go away. Like, that allowed me to function at a completely different level. I didn't lose an officer for it. I didn't lose an augmentation